answer with Dick Shawn.
That really sounds ominous. I don't think so. Yeah.
So Barrie,
That was it.
how did you hear about this movie, Barrie? How did it begin for you?
How did it happen?
Yes.
I was in Sweden, madly in love, and the phone rang, and they said, we're calling for Stanley Kramer. He would like to talk to you about a movie he's making. Can you get on a plane tomorrow? So I went, yeah, Stanley Kramer, yeah, I can do that. So that's what I did. I must have been a last minute thought, but that's okay. I was a thought.
You're never a last minute thought, let me tell you that.
Not
Not you, and look at those legs, okay?
I got on the plane and literally went from the plane to his office, and he explained what he wanted, and he said, and I'm going, okay. I was floored. Stanley Kramer, why me? So he said, go down to wardrobe and pick something out to wear, and then bring it up here and let me see it. And the wardrobe clothes were awful. They were really bad. And these little shorts and long shorts, and I don't know, bad. But I saw this fringe deal. I think it was a burlesque reject or something or whatever. And I thought, well, that'll move, black fringe will move, and so that's how that happened. And I think we shot a couple of days after that meeting, when it was shooting, and I think I did at most 2 days maybe on that film. Yeah, the one day with Dick, and maybe 2 days at the most, yeah. I had worked with Dick Shawn before in a movie called Opposite Sex, and I had the choreographer liked me, so I had a little something to do. And so I was familiar with him and the way he performed. So I thought, this is going to be a disaster. Dick is going to be out there going wild, and I don't know what to do. But anyway, yeah.
You did great, didn't she?
Just pick up the telephone.
Are these characters supposed to be stoned?
Are these what?
The characters, are they stoned?
Are they stoned? Yeah, I would say so.
Are they stoners?
Stoned, you know, on drugs.
Yeah, I know you said that. That's up to you. No, yeah, I'll tell you how that came about. I got the script, and I'm looking at it, and I'm not getting nothing's happening. And I was driving, I lived up a Sunset Strip, way at the top of the hill, Mount Crest, which it literally was. So driving down, I had my little top down, going down Sunset, and I hear honk, 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 and I turn around, and it's an old friend of mine. So we start talking, and I said, come on up. And so he said, what are you doing? And I said, I got this script from Stanley Kramer, and I don't know what to do with it. I can't get a feeling for how to do this. So he said, let me see it. So he looks at it, and he says, well, your name is Mrs. Halliburton, and that's not Mr. Halliburton you're with. And you're in a little beach shack, so you're probably stoned. And so I went, oh, okay, that works. I can do that. I think I can do that. And I think that's kind of good. I'm stoned and Dick is crazy. And so it's okay. So yeah, and that person was Steve McQueen. Very talented guy. Everybody thinks about his charm, but I think he was really very talented also.
Yes, he was. Was there any improvising between you and Dick?
What?
Any improvising?
Total. All improvised. There was nothing. It was one little section was not. I mean, Mr. Kramer just put the music on and said, "Go, do it." And I'm going, "Okay." So yeah, it was. And one thing he said, is the phone is going to ring, Barrie, and you're going to pick it up and tell Dick that it's his mother. And I thought, once again, this doesn't work for me, because why would I pick up the phone? I'm in a guy's apartment, I'm married, and I'm going to pick up the phone. I don't get that. And his answer was, you get it because it's in the script and you're going to do it. So I went, okay. So then we had worked to the front, up close to the camera, and the phone was back there. So I said, help me, please. How do I get, what do I do? I don't want to turn around and walk to the phone. That's kind of dumb to me. I don't know if I said that, but I was thinking it. So he said, look, I'll put the phone up high and you kind of dance your way back, and then you just pick it up and you say it's your mother, Dick, and throw him the phone. I'm not really good at throwing things at a target. You know, basketball wasn't my deal. I'm a good sports person, but I just, the arm, I can play tennis, but anyway, I don't know why, but it worked. I threw it to him. Yeah, but that was the only, I actually thought, I mentioned that to Karen, she got angry at me. I thought that he really didn't like me because he never said anything. That was the only instruction that he gave me.
I love that story that Tippi Hedren says when she was having a scene, when she was working for Hitchcock. And she said, you know, I'm having problems with this scene and I need your help. He said, that's your problem. You were hired to be an actor, so act. Make a decision and do it. So maybe that was the whole thing. Most cast members love Stanley, but I think maybe, I don't know, maybe women, basically, he was more of a guy's guy, you know? And maybe women, you may have felt he didn't like you, but sometimes I didn't think he liked me either, but you know. But I don't think that was really the case.
I was honored that, you know,
You're terrific in the movie, that's all I have to say, and he was very pleased with that.
Did you visit the set after you shot with Dick?
Did I?
Did you visit any of the other shooting?
Did you visit the set after you finished shooting?
After I finished shooting, did I
visit the set?
That's a really strange question. Why would I visit the set, and why would anybody welcome me visiting the set?
Oh, you didn't get dragged out to Palm Springs.
I what? I'm having a time here. Yeah, what is it?
So the next time you were part of the movie, was that the premiere?
The premiere
Yeah.
of the movie, which was over 4 hours long, in a ball gown, a sequin ball gown. I thought I would faint. It was just painful. And at intermission, I went into the ladies' room and I had a waist cincher on because ball gowns should have a little waist. So I went in the ladies' room and I ripped the waist cincher off because I thought I'm going to pass out for sure. Maybe that would have been good, I don't know. But I ripped it off and I couldn't get my dress zipped back up with that waist cincher gone. And the other half of the movie was going to go on. And I heard this voice say, do you need some help? And I went, yeah. And I opened the door, and this beautiful, beautiful woman was standing, really beautiful woman standing there. And she said, can I help you? And I went, well? She said, oh my goodness. Well, you pinch from your end, and I'll zip it up in the back. Which she did. I don't know how it happened. It was Phil Silver's wife, very sweet, beautiful woman. She was lovely, lovely, yeah. And so we saw the end of the movie, but the best thing was the performance at the Hilton Hotel after the movie. because everyone who was in that movie, all the comedians and Ethel, Ethel sang, they all performed, and each one was being better than the one before them. It was a not to be forgotten evening. It was really something. I guess Stanley had invited all the foreign press, and
right.
somehow he got it in his head, because I called, I said, a ball gown? And they said, yes, not an evening gown, a ball gown, which of course I had a closet full of those. But anyway, yeah, that was a memorable part, was the performing at the dinner afterwards, which if it hadn't been for that woman, I guess I would have been thought to be horrible, because I would have left the theater with a dress that I couldn't close. Yeah, anyway, lucky me. I was very fortunate.
Yeah, you are. So, Karen and Kat, I mean, what was it like for Stanley in that this movie was such an outlier in his career? That that almost all his movies were very socially progressive, more serious movies. Then he made this one comedy that became so beloved, and it's like, here we are 60 years later, we're still laughing at it.
People tell me it's their favorite film. They come up to me all the time, and I think my dad would be surprised, pleasantly surprised. Maybe he wouldn't be, but I think he would be surprised that this has become such a classic that he's identified with, maybe more than his other serious films.
Well, I know that UA was unhappy that it was 4 hours with intermission, because it was a road show, and they wanted to, so they went into lawsuit with Stanley, and they won. So it had to be edited down to what you see today. It used to make me very angry, but I'm very used to this version of it now, and I like it a lot. I think it plays extremely well. I know Stanley was brokenhearted over the fact that they did that, but they're thinking about money, they're not thinking about art. And I've been looking for that lost footage forever and ever and ever, and I don't think it exists, because if it had, I would have found it by now. But I'm happy with what you see today, and UA is, they were a great partner to Stanley. They made a lot of movies together, and interestingly enough, one of the men that cut his eye teeth on this movie became a very big executive at UA. And I met him a few years ago, and I was all thrilled to meet him because of Stanley and all the movies that they made together, etc. He said, the one movie that I hated the most, was It's a Mad, 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 Mad World. And he says, I think I'd better write a book about it. I'm going to tell people that I hate that movie. And I said, do it. Do it. And he said, what? You're his wife, you tell me to do that? I said, yes. He said, why would you say that? I said, because nobody's going to be on your side.
There is this cut footage that they have found and put into the
Well,
film.
what they found was I was pursued by a man who was very well known in the field of finding footage and all that. He said, I have the lost footage. I said, well, that's great, but I want $1 million for it. I said, I don't know that they'll give it to you, but you can certainly try. Well, they wouldn't give it to him. And he kept pursuing me about this. I said, I haven't got $1 million to give you. And I said, so I don't think this is going to work. Well, they called me to do the box set the comprehensive box set on Mad World, which I would have loved to have done, but they mentioned that damn thing about, what about the lost footage? And I said, well, I don't think you can find it. So it kind of didn't go anywhere. But what they did do, which I think was the right decision, they hired
Criterion.
Thank you. Criterion. And one of the men today that was involved with that is here today. But I will tell you, they did a comprehensive box set, and they put one show together of this with still pictures and voiceovers. They did that with another film. I just hated it. It takes you right out of the movie. But they included it. Probably was the right idea, but it takes away terribly from the story, in my opinion. But I'm very happy with the version you saw tonight. I think it works beautifully. So that's all I know about that part.
After the success of this movie, did Stanley try to make other comedies?
His first movie was a comedy. His very first movie was So This Is New York. And it's a really cute movie, by the way. And he made a mistake. He premiered it in the Midwest. Well, the Midwest planes didn't take off that often to New York. They had no relevance to what any of the meaning about being in New York meant. So it failed terribly. So he rushed into his second movie, Champion, which became a huge success. Now, many years go by, and I get a call from Marty Scorsese. And he said, Karen, we'd like to honor Stanley at Tribeca. I said, great. I said, I'll send you, Joshua at Nuremberg, I'll send you, Defiant Ones. He said, no. I want So This Is New York. I said, I said, well, of course, it's about New York. I get it. I said, it never played New York. So I did CNN to promote it, and I said, it's finally making its debut in New York after how many years? Anyway, Mr. Scorsese was editing a movie, and he came out of that movie editing to introduce me to the audience to talk about So This Is New York. It is a damn good movie, and it's funny as hell, and people got it because it was in New York, and the New Yorkers got it. And we had to play it twice, it was so popular. But really and truly, comedy was not his strong suit. I think drama was. But if you even look at Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, it's funny. It has funny in it. And I think all drama has to have a little funny in it to make it work. So I think there's always sense of humor with everything Stanley did.
Sure. Sandy?
Yes.
I love your dad in this movie.
Me too, he was like a father to me.
I'm glad to hear it. He is so funny. You can just drop dead. So what
We
did your
figured
dad?
it every way we could figure it. No matter how many times we figure it. You say no! You have a question?
How did your dad feel about the movie? Because your dad wasn't in a lot of movies, so I assume he was very choosy.
You what?
I assume he was very choosy because he didn't act in very many movies.
My dad was 38 years old. First of all, I'm so happy to be here, and thank you for staying and sitting through. I can't believe you folks wanted to actually see the whole movie with all the sound. And I wanted to introduce, because this is kind of a special night for me, my wife is here. My wife and I met only a few months before my father passed. We were supposed to go to dinner on several occasions, and my dad was not feeling well, and he kept saying, I'm not going to be able to make dinner. But they spoke on the phone. And my wife's father was one of America's great songwriters. His name was Ron Miller. And this time of year, you're hearing a lot of his songs on the radio. Someday at Christmas, now being released by many artists. Last year it was released by, what's her name? What? Lizzo did it last year, and this year Brandy was on Good Morning America singing it.
I met him a few times.
So Stevie Wonder sang it, but my wife's father wrote that. Someday at Christmas, Heaven Help Us All, Have Never Been to Me, If I Could. Someday at Christmas.
For Once in My Life.
For Once in My Life is his biggest hit. And so my wife is here, Lisa Dawn Miller, and this is the first time she's ever got to see my father on the big screen, which you said earlier. She's also a music producer and an extraordinary singer. She just released her first Christmas album. She's got 7 songs out and covers Sunday at Christmas. So if you've got Spotify or Apple on your way home, it is Christmas, ask for Lisa Dawn Miller and listen to her music. My son is here, who just graduated at NYU, also a singer-songwriter, and he wrote his first Hanukkah song, and it was on the Apple Music playlist. My daughter's here. And my friend Billy Reback is here, who's a writer, producer, and was the showrunner for Tim Allen's Home Improvement. But for me, when people ask, I was 7 years old, and then I was sitting here thinking, what can I tell you? Remember the little kid that tells Phil Silvers, I'll show you how to get out of here? That was me. No, it wasn't, but I wish it was. But the thing about watching something like this is I grew up with most of these people who were friends of my father's and got to sit with them in the house and talk to them, from Don Knotts and Jerry Lewis and Milton Berle, who gave me a book and autographed it to me, and I used to play with his son Billy. So it was amazing. And things that people always want to know stories about the movie. So the ones I remember is Spencer Tracy was very sick. He had cancer. And they really didn't know if he'd be able to do the film, and he said yes, he would, and he would show up on the days he had to work, and he would knock out the film. And he came to work his first day of work, and Jonathan Winters every day would start out by ad-libbing an hour of just making up stuff. And Spencer sat there laughing and laughing and showed up every day whether he was working or not. And that's what got him through the film, and it healed. And Stanley was an incredible director who did a comedy and took on the challenge. But after the film, my dad went on to another film called The Golden Head, which was shot in Hungary, Budapest. And it was a communist country at the time. And I'm not sure why my dad got the part, but he was over there. He brought the family over. We went to the British legation school. I was 7 or 8 years old. And Stanley thought it would be fun to call my dad and speak to him in code and get him in trouble. So my father would answer the phone, he'd say, hello, and Stanley would go, Buddy, it's Stanley. Dodgers, 5. Giants, 3. Mets, 2. Phillies, 1. Then they would come to our rooms and change our rooms and bug them. I swear to you, I swear on my life, this is what they did. And Stanley thought it was fun, and we'd call every week with the baseball scores, and they would bug the car and change our rooms and rebug everything. And my dad would get to pulling bugs out of the room. And I never get to tell this story, but we had a driver who was 18 years old. It was my father. And after my father finished the film, he sent my mother and myself and my 2 sisters, and we went off to Italy. And my father took Peter Leslie was his name, 18 years old. He wanted to get out of communist Hungary. He rolled him up in a rug, put him in the trunk of a car, and drove him out of Hungary. So I was blessed to know so many of these people, and as I got older and became a comedian and a performer and actor, I got to work with many of them. I got to sit with them and talk in the house, talk comedy, and listen to Sharpe. So it was an amazing experience, and my dad loved doing it. You know, at that time, he was 38 years old. He'd already won a Best Actor award on Broadway before the Tony Award. They had an award called The Donaldson. He was the Best Newcomer at 21 years old. And he had already done a bunch of other stuff, and that was the beginning of a little run for him, because for those of you that may or may not know, this movie, Mad World, was the #1 comedy film for many, many years. It became the #1 comedy film, highest box office, made a ton of money, set all those people who were stars, which made them even bigger. Every comic wanted to be, and said, I'll do anything. And then it was the highest grossing comedy of all time. It's still, when you exchange the dollars, it's one of the highest grossings until, you know, these super films came along and have crossed over the $100 million. But then he did the film in Hungary. He did Music Man, which was a musical, and he played that, and then he was in Disney's Love Bug. And so he was in 3 of the top films of the 60s. And then his career fell apart and had to go to the Tonight Show.
Did you guys watch it when you were a kid? Because it was always on TV.
No, it's always on TV, and then people send me pictures. It's amazing, because people send me pictures like I didn't know them. Which one is that? They send me pictures. Oh, did you know your father was in Mad World? Yeah, wow.
Buddy
Yeah, I heard that.
Buddy Hackett.
And they send, I get clips, my wife and I get clips all the time, you know.
Big black hair.
Once a week, sometimes twice a week, someone says, oh, we saw this clip on YouTube of your father, he was on the Tonight Show. Yeah, I know. And there's if you look up on YouTube and say, type in Buddy Hackett duck joke, that's the one I get the most. And
It's a good joke.
It is a great joke, and you'll laugh your asses. Can we say ass in here? Because I learned that from my father. He used to say stuff like that. But in 1963, he was just transitioning from the kind of comic he used to be, where you were clean, to where he started to work what they called blue or risque. And the reason was because people were stealing his material. So he said, I'm not going to let people, I'll do something they won't steal. And he started to work deal, and he was a blue, and he was the first one to say ass on stage.
Good for him.
Yeah.
Kat, you're waving something. Do you have a prop for us?
Well, I have a giveaway. I'm going to do a little trivia, and I think I'm just going to ask one question because I'm sure everybody here knows it. Maybe they don't, but I have like 4 questions, but I'll start with one. But before that, this purse that I have was made just for me. It's called the Mad World Purse. It actually is a coconut with jewels on it. And also I wanted to thank Neil so much, who's here tonight, a friend of mine that gave some beautiful flowers, and Juliana, correct, has a gift basket she's going to bring up. So I don't know if you want to wait till afterwards, but I wanted to acknowledge you. Thank you so much for being here and bringing that. So what do you think? Should I just ask one question, and if you all raise your hand with the answer, one person's going to get my dad's memoir tonight. And it's a mad, 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 mad world of life in Hollywood by Sharpe-Kramer. And we all signed it, my mom, me, and my sisters. So what do you think? Do you want to do it that way? I'll just start with one question, and if someone guesses it, they'll get the book. And my godmother was Katharine Hepburn, so I think I'm going to ask it as Auntie Kate. Who was the original choice for Colonel Hawthorne before Terry Thomas played the role? Does anybody know
That was
who
very
the
good,
first
Kat.
choice? Oh, one hand in the back. You're right. Come on down. And Peter Sellers was my favorite, so. But I love Terry Thomas. See, that wasn't so hard. I had a whole list of questions. So. Here you go, sir.
Wait a minute. This is an inside job. It's very suspicious.
Congratulations.
He knows everybody up here. Yeah, okay.
You're welcome.
All right, I think we can do a few questions from the audience. Do we have any? Oh, none? Yes.
I think it was, I'll answer that because I did a little research because I love him so much, but I love Terry too. I think it might have been because my father, he made them all accept favored nations and he wanted a bigger salary. I think that's why.
Yes.
Well, yeah, he's a very good, very well known with many, many films. And I don't want to name him name because I kind of like put him down and didn't mean to do it that way. He's been very successful with many films. Robert Harris is his name.
That's her answer. My answer is, my father said, Stanley didn't pay me enough money, so I took a lot of film home with me. And I said, you're going to pay me a lot more money or you're going to have an incomplete film. Because we tried to make a deal and we tried to figure it as many ways as we could, and you wouldn't give me enough.
Thanks.
Hi, this is the first time I've seen this movie and I loved it. My question is, how many days did it take to film?
About 7 months, I believe.
Yeah, it was 7.5 months. I think it was, I'm going to say it was 166 days of shooting off the top of my head. 7.5 months.
So with this film, the one thing I have to say, well, 2 things I want to say. The editing of this film, unbelievable. The overlapping of dialogue, which is not normally allowed because they always say, cut, cut, you're overlapping. There was overlapping in this film, and I don't think he ever missed anybody's line, which I think was absolutely amazing. And but every time I see it, I think, well, Stanley was a hell of an editor, and he knew what he wanted. And Robert Jones cut his eye teeth on this movie. He became a very well-known editor, a lot of Academy Awards, and he became a writer. He wrote Being There.
But didn't get the credit.
He didn't get the credit. He wrote, what is it?
Coming Home.
Coming Home. He was a brilliant man. But he always said, I learned everything about editing from Stanley. And a really good director, you know, also should understand editing. Because, you know, unless it's edited correctly, you'd lose the story. But this is amazing. All these vignettes all put together, and yet it never misses a beat. Pretty good, I think.
Yes. Yeah.
I know that Arnold Stang had a broken arm while he was doing the investigation scene. I'm just wondering if anybody knows how difficult it was to work around the fact that it was some chaos and he had a broken arm.
Do you understand?
Yeah, I mean, Arnold Stang, I think his left arm was in a cast in the movie. He'd broken his wrist right before production.
Marvin Kaplan, you mean that part of the
Yeah.
gas station?
Yeah, Arnold broke his wrist.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
That's
it
right.
looks like he's grabbing everything with his other hand.
If you look at those stunts, we didn't have the technology in those days as we have now. And so those car chases have been copied since, but they were amazing. I mean, all the stunts in these films, nobody ever got hurt, really. I'm sorry that he broke his arm or whatever, wrist or whatever. But it's amazing that there wasn't more damage done to some of these people, you know? But it didn't happen. So. No, it maybe in Barrie's scene. No, Stanley was not the kind of man, and he told them in advance, no shtick, no improvising. You stick to the script. And they did. Pretty much.
Does that sound right to you, Sandy? No improv?
No, well, my dad said to me that at the end when they find the big W and they're digging in the hole, and he put the camera in the hole looking up at everybody because he wanted to see everybody looking around. And if you watch Spencer, throughout the movie, he's always doing this thing with his tongue in his cheek. Like that, and my dad stole it from him. And so they're in the hole, and Stanley's looking up at the camera, and my dad's going, and Stanley's going, buddy, stop doing that. And he, no, I don't want to. And he just left it in there if you look carefully. But all I heard from my dad many years later was just how well everybody got along, how much fun it was, how much they laughed and stuff like that. And I think the work was the work, and the ad-libbing, which your husband didn't like, but it was before and after, you know, but they got the work done.
Are they all living on location out in the middle of the desert?
In the desert.
Were they on location?
In August.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, they were.
It was in the desert.
One of my questions was going to be if someone could name 7 out of the 14 different locations, because a lot of it was Long Beach, Palm Desert, Palm
Kern
Springs,
County, Santa Monica.
Yucca Valley, Oxnard. I think it was Santa Monica, and Malibu.
Santa Monica and Oxnard.
Kernville.
I want to tell my Jonathan Winter
There's a
story.
question from a young lady down there. Hang on.
Yeah, the bunny rabbit in row 12. Thank you, Sandy. Not so loud, please.
How long did it take to make the background of when they're in the helicopter? In the
Great
plane?
question.
It's a
I
very
don't know
creative
the
question.
answer. It was before my time, you know, I wasn't born yet, but I've done a lot of research on it. What was the question? How long did it take for the helicopter sequence? You mean how many days or
I think the plane sequence.
the plane sequence? Helicopter, yeah.
I don't
There's-
know. I can't answer that question.
Is that the one with my dad that was in it? Yeah, he had been a pilot for American Airlines before that, so.
Really?
Well, you people will believe anything. That's all, and it's amazing the technology, because now we have green screen. In those days, they would shoot the film and show it out the back and then put them in a studio and move the plane and stuff like that. I mean, I was too young to see it. I've seen other stuff as I got older, but the technology has changed so much where it's seamless and you can't tell. And now, you know, being a veteran in this business and looking at this stuff, you can see some of that stuff. But, you know, your days in that plane shooting those scenes and twisting and turning, and then they got to go shoot the stuff for the plane, what they call second unit, where they're shooting that plane, and they've got to match it up to what the actors are doing. So it's pretty involved. Did we answer your question?
I think she left. Yeah, a couple
still
more.
there.
Yeah, yes, sir.
Most obscure cameo.
By what criteria?
Which cameo is the least recognized that was in the film?
Oh, that's good. Who's the least appreciated cameo in the movie?
Well, there were some relatives of people that are supposed to be here tonight, and Joey Brown's grandson is supposed to be here. Are you here? But there was Joe E. Ross and Joe E. Brown are both in it, so maybe those cameos and Ben Blue.
I don't know if Zazu Pitts gets enough appreciation.
I think
She's okay, all right, okay. I mean, Buster Keaton actually, he had a much bigger part, but a lot of his scenes got cut out. He was on the phone with Spencer Tracy plotting the escape.
And there was a lot of comedians that were angry that they didn't end up in the film. I mean, just because Peter Sellers said no, there's a lot that were never forgave my father that they weren't in it.
I first saw the picture 60 years ago, back today, at the Warner Cinerama in New York City. But that was in the Cinerama format. So what did Stanley think about it? Again, that was the first picture that came out in Cinerama format. What did Stanley think about the format, especially the way it was filmed?
He did it both ways. He did the Cinerama, but he also did 70 millimeter.
In the mind.
Oh, yes, he did. He did. He shot it in Cinerama, but he also shot it with 70 millimeter. So that was the format of that day. I mean, it was rare that in those days. It wasn't done all the time. It was a new way of making films.
Well, you know, the Cinerama Dome was built for Mad World.
That's why it's a curved screen, yeah.
All right, why don't we do two more questions? Yes, ma'am. Oh, yes. The Johnny Winter story.
Okay. Well, this was Jonathan Winter's first film, first of all. And Stanley saw him guest on the Jack Parr Show. The Jack Parr Show was the late night, you know, like we have Jimmy Kimmel. It was one of those kinds of shows, and it was Jack Parr. And he saw Jonathan, and Stanley was really great at discovering new talents. And he called Mr. Winters on the phone, and he said, Mr. Winters, this is Mr. Kramer, and I would like to offer you a role in a film that I'm doing. And it stars Spencer Tracy, and Jonathan Winters said, oh no, Mr. Kramer, Spencer Tracy, I can't, I'm not an actor, I don't, and Stanley kept saying, you'll be fine, he said, no, he said, Mr. Kramer, I'm going to be really honest with you. I just got out of a mental institution, and they had declared me certifiably insane. And Stanley said, Mr. Winters, every actor I've ever worked with is certifiably insane. So I think you'll do just fine. And I think, in my opinion, they were all wonderful, but I think Jonathan was great and made a great debut and started his career as an actor.
All right, last question. Yes, loud.
Have you gone back to any, like if you're filming with your husband, did you go back to any of those locations like for memories, or like, did you ever revisit any of these places?
Did I?
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
No, but I will tell you, we have we're on the board of the Palm Springs International Comedy Festival, and we created a Stanley Kramer Mad World Award for Best Comedy Ensemble.
That we did.
And Sandy's in a film coming out that's also probably going to be in the festival. I'll just announce that it's been submitted. So yeah, Palm Springs loves this movie, and so that's like in Long Beach too.
It was made in August in Palm Springs, a lot of it. Can you imagine how hot that must have been to those actors? But they never missed a beat. I mean, they're just amazing, weren't they?
And I think they tore down the Big W, right? That's, yeah.
Yeah, I think each one of the 4 trees has sort of been dying from old age. There might be one and a half trees left. It's out in Palos Verdes.
They did do a film about the locations, you know. Someone put a film together with all the, tried to show all the
Fan club days,
locations.
I think.
Yes.
Okay, well, I think it's bedtime for everyone. So, thank you for coming.
Thank you.